You saw her. Not just looked, saw. If 1,000 people looked at her, but only one made her feel seen, who do you think she'll remember? And deeper still, how many people in your life have you truly seen? Or are you also just another pair of eyes, passing over faces, missing entire worlds? Welcome to Chill, Then Conquer, where silence speaks louder than noise, where pain becomes the teacher, and men rise, not by chasing, but by becoming. This is where strength is built quietly, where the world doesn't need to hear your plans, because it will feel your presence. So stay, because here, we don't just talk, we transform. In a world that moves fast, where attention is sold like cheap perfume, to truly see someone is an act of rebellion, because most people don't want to see. They want the idea, the image, the dopamine hit of something new. But real presence, that's different. It requires silence. It requires stillness. It requires strength. To sit across from someone, not to perform, not to scan, but to let your awareness fall on them like sunlight, warm, quiet, unshakable. Most people can't hold that kind of gaze. It burns through the surface. It melts masks. And those who wear too many masks, they run from it. But the few who've been starving to be seen, they'll never forget the one who finally did. Real presence is not about what you say. It's not about clever words or perfect timing. It's about the quality of your attention. When your attention is fractured, you can sit in front of someone and still not be there. Your body is present, but your soul is elsewhere, thinking, scanning, judging, waiting. True presence doesn't wait. It meets. It witnesses. And witnessing someone, truly, is the beginning of love, respect, power. You know why people talk so much, move so fast, laugh too loud? Because silence exposes emptiness, but attention, real, focused attention, reveals depth. If you can hold your awareness like a sword, if you can give it without needing something back, you become rare. Because presence is rare. And what is rare is sacred. You don't need to be beautiful. You don't need to be rich. You don't even need to speak. But if you can walk into a room and make people feel that you are with them, not just around them, they'll remember you long after the charming ones fade. Think back. Who are the people you still remember deeply? Not because they were loud, not because they impressed you, but because something about them felt like they were truly there. They listened. They noticed. They weren't just trying to get to the next moment. They were in it. Those people shaped you. And you can become that for someone else. In Stoicism, there is a word, prososche. It means attentive awareness, lucid consciousness, a deliberate mind. Epictetus taught it as the very root of the philosophical life. Without attention, he said, you cannot control your judgments, you cannot govern your emotions, and you certainly cannot live with virtue. Attention is the gateway, and what you give it to shapes who you become. So the next time you sit across from someone, don't just listen for your turn to speak. Don't just scan for red flags or green lights. Be still. Be there. Notice. Let your presence say, I see you. Without flattery, without performance. Just truth. Silent, steady truth. Because in a world addicted to noise, the one who can offer calm presence is remembered like a poem you only read once, but never forget. The silence that heals, not the advice that judges. Have you ever been in pain and someone gave you advice that made it worse? Not because it was wrong, but because it wasn't what you needed. Because deep down, you weren't looking for a solution. You were hoping someone would simply sit with you in the storm. But they couldn't. Because silence makes most people uncomfortable. People rush to speak. They rush to fix. They rush to label. Because staying quiet in front of another person's suffering feels like weakness to them. But silence, real silence, is the most powerful response you can offer to a soul that's breaking. Not passive silence, not distracted silence, but presence. That kind of quiet that wraps around pain like warm cloth around a bleeding wound. It says, I don't have to explain your pain away. I don't need to solve you. I'm here. I'm not leaving. I'm not afraid of your sorrow. People don't always need to be told what to do. They need to be seen. They need to be felt. They need to feel safe enough to fall apart in front of you, without being judged, analyzed, or preached at. That is love. That is strength. Most advice is about the giver, not the receiver. It's about control. It's about discomfort with rawness. It's about trying to put distance between yourself and someone else's darkness. But the wise don't do that. The wise lean in. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If someone is mistaken, instruct them kindly, and, if possible, silently." The Stoic understands. Correction without compassion is just cruelty in disguise. And most of the time, people already know what they need to do. They're just too wounded to do it yet. What they need is not your solution, but your stillness. The silence that heals feels like this. Someone listening, without checking their phone. Someone staying, even when your words get ugly. Someone who lets you cry, without rushing to wipe your tears. It is the silence of the mountain, not cold, but eternal. Not empty, but deeply full. Sometimes the most stoic thing you can do is shut your mouth and open your heart, to bear witness, to hold space, to say without words, I won't abandon you in your chaos, and mean it. Seneca said, we are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more in imagination than in reality. But the presence of another, calm and grounded, can break that illusion. Your silence becomes a mirror, and in it, they can see themselves clearly again, not as a mess, but as someone who is surviving and healing and becoming. You want to be strong? Then learn to sit quietly with someone else's darkness, without making it about you, without rescuing, without preaching, without performing. Just be there, steady, present, alive. Because when the storm passes, and it always does, they will remember your silence as the first moment they felt safe again. Not the advice, not the words, but the quiet strength of someone who didn't flinch. Presence in protection, not just for others, but for your own soul. Emotional signature, the feeling that outlives the moment. Why is it that one scent can break you open faster than 1,000 words? Why is it that a certain song can pull you back through time, to a moment you thought you'd buried? It's because pain doesn't live in your thoughts. It lives in your body, in your breath, in your nervous system, in the little pauses between words you didn't say. And in those moments, you don't remember the person. You remember the emotional signature they left behind. We all carry them. Invisible fingerprints on the inside of our chest. Not just from lovers, but from moments. The smell of a specific shampoo, and suddenly you're 19 again, standing in someone's doorway, hoping they'd choose you. The clink of a spoon against a glass, and you're back at your father's table, silent, afraid, unseen. A voice on the radio and your stomach clenches like it did that night they walked away. This is how the mind works. Not in logic, but in emotionally coded memory. We don't recall events. We recall the feeling they left us with. Not the facts, but the ache. Not the timeline, but the tremor in our hands. There's a line by Marcus Aurelius. The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. But sometimes it's not our thoughts that color us. It's our experiences. And those experiences leave residue. They leave scent, texture, and temperature. The Stoic doesn't ignore this. He studies it. He asks, what sensations rule me without my awareness? what emotional signature am I still reacting to even years later? Because until you name the emotion, it owns you. Until you see the origin, you're just chasing shadows. Some people walk into a room and without saying a word, you feel unsafe. Not because of them, but because of the ghosts they match in your nervous system. That's not intuition. That's memory. That's the residue of a moment you didn't get to finish, didn't get to process, didn't get to speak. And here's the real power. You leave an emotional signature too. Every conversation, every moment of presence or absence leaves an imprint, not of what you said, but of how you made them feel. People don't remember your advice. They remember your tone, your eyes, the silence between your sentences, the weight of your attention or its absence. Seneca once wrote, "Wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for kindness." But most of us leave behind confusion, tension, insecurity, not because we're cruel, but because we're unaware that our smallest interactions are branding people with emotional ink they may carry for years. So the question becomes, what signature do you leave behind when you walk out of the room? Does your silence feel like safety or punishment? Do your words land like shelter or a knife? Do people breathe easier when you're near, or do they tense up to survive your presence? The Stoic learns to be intentional, to be present, to pause before he speaks, to watch the ripple of his presence on others. Because he knows moments end, but the feeling they create does not. So now we ask, what's been living inside you for years without a name? What feeling have you mistaken for personality when it was really a wound unprocessed? You think it's just who you are, but maybe it's who you became in response to something that hurt too much to face. And that's where healing begins. In the next, we'll explore how to protect your emotional field so you don't keep inhaling the residue of past pain without knowing it. You'll learn to become the observer, not the prisoner of your emotional signatures. Defending your emotional field. Becoming the observer, not the prisoner. Ever walked away from someone feeling exhausted, but you can't explain why? They didn't insult you, they didn't argue, but something in you feels drained, heavier, confused. What if that wasn't just a bad vibe? What if what you felt was your own energy being leak? Most people don't realize this. Every interaction is an energetic exchange, not metaphorically, but neurologically, biochemically, emotionally. You're not just reacting to what someone says, you're responding to who they are emotionally in that moment. And if you don't protect your emotional field, you'll start living your life based on other people's storms. You'll feel anxious, but it's not your anxiety. You'll feel pressure, but it's not your timeline. You'll carry guilt that was never yours to hold. Seneca said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." But in the modern world, we suffer in emotional contagion, in absorbing emotions that don't belong to us. The Stoic trains to observe, not absorb. He notices what rises in his body when someone enters the room. He asks, "Is this mine? Or is this a wound they're trying to unload? Is this pressure coming from within or from their unresolved chaos?" Because most people don't talk, they transmit. They throw their tension, shame, and fear into the air around them, and if you're not grounded, you'll breathe it in without knowing. So how do we defend that field? How do we stop absorbing what doesn't serve us? It begins with a simple practice, internal naming. When you feel a shift in energy, pause. Name it. Tension, not mine. Guilt, not earned. Urgency, their timeline, not mine. This doesn't mean you stop feeling. It means you stop mistaking their emotions for your truth. The Stoic isn't cold. He's clear. He doesn't avoid emotion. He just doesn't get kidnapped by it. He understands that presence requires boundaries, and boundaries aren't walls, they're clarity. They're the ability to say, I see your pain, but I won't wear it. I hear your fear, but I won't carry it. I understand your urgency, but I won't confuse it with purpose. Real strength is not in how much you can carry, it's in how much you refuse to carry what isn't yours. Some people test your boundaries without saying a word. They arrive with crisis energy, chaotic timelines, unspoken expectations. And if you've been trained since childhood to please, fix, or soothe, you'll walk right into their storm thinking it's your job to solve it. But it's not. You weren't born to be a sponge. You were born to be a mirror, clear, reflective, and still. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That's the essence of defending your emotional field. To observe the chaos without becoming part of it. To hear the noise without letting it change your rhythm. To sit in the fire without becoming flame. So ask yourself, where are you leaking your peace for the sake of avoiding discomfort? Who are you trying to rescue at the cost of your own clarity? What burdens are you calling love when they're actually just fear in disguise? True Stoicism is not emotionless, it's emotionally disciplined. It's knowing when to lean in and when to pull back. It's the power to be fully present without being fully consumed. Attention is a muscle, and you're letting it atrophy. You're not tired. You're distracted. You're not broken, you're just scattered. And that's not your fault, but it is your responsibility. So let me ask you this. When was the last time you held your focus for longer than a few seconds without needing to touch a screen? When was the last time your attention wasn't being auctioned off to algorithms designed to make your inner world feel like it's not enough? Most people don't know this, but attention, real, directed, embodied attention, is the foundation of every great life. Your ability to love deeply, to think clearly, to create, to lead, to be at peace, none of it survives if your attention is fractured. But here's the trap. You're not losing your focus randomly. You're being trained to lose it. Every notification, every short video, every "you might also like" is a rep in the gym of distraction. And your brain is adapting. Your nervous system now expects a dopamine spike every few seconds, and when it doesn't get it, you feel anxious, bored, like something's wrong. But nothing's wrong, you've just been rewired. Epictetus said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life." But there's no freedom without control of your attention. Because what controls your attention owns your mind, and what owns your mind steers your life. So the question becomes, how do you rebuild the muscle you didn't know you were letting die? It starts with this. Starve the noise, feed the silence. Delete what drains, mute what manipulates, block what steals your presence without giving anything back. Start your day without your phone. Feel the discomfort, feel the itch to reach, and don't. Why? Because that discomfort is the exact place your power returns. Attention isn't something you get back by force. It's something you return to by devotion. You don't train your focus by fighting distraction. You train it by building intimacy with the moment you're already in. Start small, 5 minutes of stillness, one walk without headphones, one task done without switching tabs. This is not productivity, this is spiritual protection, because every stolen moment of presence adds up to a life that isn't yours. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Nowhere you can go is more peaceful, more free of interruptions than your own soul. Retreat to it." You don't need more hacks. You need a retreat into yourself. Your mind isn't broken, it's cluttered. Your soul isn't lost, it's buried. And your focus isn't gone, it's just waiting for you to stop handing it away. So ask yourself, what would happen if you treated your attention like sacred ground? Who would you become if you could fully occupy this moment instead of constantly escaping it? Because the world doesn't need you to do more. It needs you to be here, fully, silently, powerfully, undistracted. In the next part, we enter the fire, how pain shapes your mind, and how you can choose alchemy over avoidance. True alchemy, transforming without losing the core. He who has a why to live can bear almost any how. Friedrich Nietzsche. They say transformation is sacred, but what if the price of becoming something new is forgetting who you were? This is not the alchemy of gold. This is the alchemy of the soul. And in that fire, many burn, but few emerge whole. 1. The quiet crucible. There is a silence that comes before real change. Not the silence of peace, but the silence of fracture, where nothing makes sense anymore, and the self you've always carried begins to dissolve under the weight of new truths. This is where transformation begins, not with ambition, but with collapse. The Stoics knew this. They didn't seek change through fever or frenzy, but through a deep confrontation with what is unchanging. Epictetus said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." But what if you no longer know what you are? True alchemy isn't about becoming someone else. It's about stripping away everything that was never truly you. 2. Fire doesn't forgive lies. The world sells you reinvention. Just change, it whispers. Be someone better, shinier, more liked, more followed, more adaptable. Forget what hurt you. Forget who hurt you. Forget who you were. But transformation without essence is just disguise. In Stoic thought, metanoia, a deep turning of the soul, is not a costume change. It is a returning, a refining, a remembering. You don't transform by layering on new masks. You transform by standing naked in front of what must die in you and letting it burn. Marcus Aurelius didn't become great by pretending he wasn't afraid. He became great by refusing to betray his values, even when the fire of duty scorched him. 3. The fractured self. What do you keep? Real transformation forces a question. What is the part of you that cannot burn? The Stoics called this your hegemonikon, your ruling reason, your center. It's not your name, not your wounds, not your style or your fame or your stories. It's the watcher, the steady core, the part of you that can lose everything and still know how to act with dignity. Modern life encourages endless reinvention, but you cannot endlessly melt and reshape metal without weakening it. Even in alchemy, there is a secret. The vessel must remain strong enough to contain the fire. So too with the soul. 4. The temptation to disappear. Sometimes, the pain of change is so great that you don't want to emerge as someone stronger. You just want to disappear. To shed not only the past, but the burden of being. But the Stoics warned of this. Seneca wrote, "He who is everywhere is nowhere." In trying to be everything, you end up as nothing. When the fire of life tests you, you don't get to vanish. You get to choose, burn in vain or burn into form. You get to say, "This is what I carry with me. This is what I leave behind." And then you walk forward, scarred, but rooted. 5. The mythic frame. In the old myths, transformation was never instant. The hero doesn't sip a potion and become a god. They descend, they suffer, they lose. And only by passing through the underworld do they return changed, but still themselves. Orpheus didn't survive because he could sing. He survived because he dared to love through darkness, even when it broke him. Hercules didn't become divine because he was strong. He became divine because he learned restraint. Real change doesn't scream. It whispers. It says, "This is what the fire took." And more importantly, this is what it could not touch. 6. Stoic practice, changing without losing the core. Return to the root, daily. Every day, ask, what matters, even if I lose everything else? This isn't a journal prompt, it's a shield. Let go, but not of yourself. When change comes, don't resist the storm,
but never abandon the compass.
Use pain as refiner, not designer. Pain will try to rewrite who you are. Don't let it decide your character, only sharpen it. Hold on to your hegemonicon, that part of you that can observe, decide, and act rightly. Defend it with everything. That's what you take into every transformation. 7. Modern alchemy, real-world examples. A man loses his career, but not his purpose. Instead of collapsing, he builds again, not the same, but true to his principles. A woman walks away from a toxic relationship, not because she has a new identity waiting, but because she refuses to betray her deepest values. A friend is betrayed. He doesn't seek revenge. He chooses silence, honor, and the quiet work of rebuilding trust in himself. These are not grand stories, but they are sacred ones, because they reflect a core truth. What you protect in the fire reveals who you truly are. 8. The iron law of Stoic alchemy. Don't mistake smoke for essence. Don't call pain growth unless it leaves your core stronger. And never trade your essence for applause. You are allowed to change. You are called to evolve, but you are never required to forget who you were when no one was watching. True alchemy is not about becoming something new. It's about becoming more deeply yourself under pressure. As Epictetus said, don't explain your philosophy, embody it. And now, we step into the final chain of this journey, where silence becomes strength, where wounds become wisdom. The one who watches from within. When all else falls away, what remains? The final silence. Before every decision, before every regret, before the storm of your thoughts rises to full violence, there is a moment, a flicker, a watcher, the one who does not react, the one who does not shout, the one who has always been there, watching, listening, waiting. You've met him before, when the world betrayed you and your chest cracked open, when you stood at the crossroads and knew no one would come save you, when all masks fell and what remained was silence. That silence wasn't empty. It was him, the one who watches from within. He has no name, but he knows who you are. Call it your daemon, your inner citadel, your hegemonikon, your soul, your conscience. The Stoics didn't argue about names, they argued about essence. And they said this: there is a part of you untouched by chaos, untouched by praise or blame, fear or fortune. It watches everything. It cannot be fooled. It knows when you lied, even if no one else noticed. It knows what you chose to become, even if the world applauds you for being something else. It sees you when you are alone with your choices, and it whispers, "Be steady, be just, be free." The collapse is where he appears. You don't meet him when things go well. You meet him when your life crumbles. When love leaves, when friends betray, when the truth arrives and it's colder than you imagined. That's when his voice returns. He doesn't scold. He doesn't flatter. He asks, "Now that you've lost what you were holding, who will you choose to be?" And that moment, my brother, my sister, is where philosophy begins. Not in books, not in quotes, not in discipline, but in the ashes of illusion, in the space between reaction and response. He is not moved by emotion, but he honors it. The one who watches within is not cold, he is not detached, but he does not tremble with every wave of the heart. He sees emotion for what it is: energy, information, flame, useful, powerful, but never a master. He lets grief speak, but not lead. He allows anger to burn, but not rule. He accepts joy fully, but does not become addicted. He knows, to be free, you must feel deeply, but act deliberately. That is the Stoic code, and he carries it in silence. He has no enemies, only standards. He doesn't retaliate, he doesn't gossip, he doesn't chase validation or vengeance. He judges no one, but he holds you to your highest standard. He remembers the promises you made in the dark. The values you claimed mattered more than comfort. The dignity you vowed to uphold, even when it cost you. He never forgets. And when you betray yourself, he doesn't punish, he watches. And that look alone is enough to make you want to return to your true path. In the stillness, he builds. While the outer world burns, the inner one builds. He does not require speed, he does not care for applause. He does not track your progress on social graphs. He only wants this, that you face the moment fully, that you rise again without bitterness, that you carry your code like a flame in the wind. No excuses, no explanations, only embodiment. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." He is the root of true power. You want to be unshakable? It doesn't come from control. It doesn't come from money, muscles, strategy, or silence. It comes from him, from being aligned with the one who watches. When your external life is in chaos and you still choose order, he smiles. When you could betray your values and you don't, he nods. When the world tempts you to prove something and you choose restraint, he walks closer. This is what the ancient Stoics called virtue, a life ruled from within. The final test. There will come a moment near the end, maybe of a day, maybe of a life, when all masks fall and all noise fades, and you will face him alone. He will not ask, "How much did you achieve? Who applauded you? Did they love you?" He will ask, "Did you stay true?" And in that moment, only two answers will exist. And you will know, because he's been watching all along. Stoic practice, listening to the watcher. Practice, premeditatio malorum. Imagine losing what you cling to, then listen to what remains. That quiet voice is your true self. Write without performance. Each day, write one sentence to the watcher, not for therapy, for honesty. Ask one simple question at every crossroads. If no one knew I made this choice, would I still make it? Honor the watcher over the world. When the world celebrates your false self, don't betray the watcher to please them. Practice micro-courage. Say the hard thing, hold the boundary, forgive the wound, not loudly, but deliberately. He sees it. Mythic endings, echoes in the greats. Marcus, ruling an empire, writes to himself in the quiet of night, not to the Senate, not to history, but to his own soul, a man in dialogue with his watcher. Epictetus, once a slave, reminds us, "You may not control the world, but you control how you meet it." The watcher speaks here, loud and clear. A warrior lays down his sword not because he is weak, but because revenge would violate his deeper code. He walks away not from the fight, but from falsehood. The closing gate. You've come far. You've stood in silence. You've buried old selves. You've walked through memory, betrayal, discipline, and transformation. And now, there is no prize, no finish line, only a deeper call. Because to truly live by the Watcher's voice is not a project, it is a path. And it asks one thing: do not forget who you are when no one is watching. That's your North Star, your inner fire, your unshakable peace. That is what no one can take. Not fear, not fame, not failure, not even death. If you are pained by external things, it is not they that disturb you, but your own judgment of them. And it is in your power to wipe out that judgment now.
Marcus Aurelius. So walk on, quietly, bravely, freely. You are not alone. You are never alone. The one who watches from within has always been with you, and he is ready, always ready, to meet you at the edge of your next becoming, without fear, without apology, without noise. Just one final nod, and the calm, clear knowing of a soul aligned. If this path speaks to something deep within you, if the silence, the discipline, and the fire of inner truth call you home, then stay close. Subscribe and walk with us. We're just getting started. In the next video, we'll go even deeper into the soul's hidden architecture. Until then, stand tall, stay still, and remember, the one who watches from within is always listening.